what civilization is 6 billion people trying to make themselves happy by standing on each other's shoulders and kicking each other's teeth in. It's not a pleasant situation, and yet you can stand back and look at this planet and see that we have the money, the power, the medical understanding, the scientific know-how, the love, and the community to produce a kind of human paradise. But we are led by the least among us, the least intelligent, the least noble, the least visionary. We're led by the least among us.
I think that's wrong. We're led by the people who do the most, the people who want the most. Because without want, you can't change anything.
Yeah, without the desire for something to change, without the desire for something to be done correctly, then, I mean, whether or not the government's ideas are what you want them to be or your perspective of what is successful, if you don't like that, then that's something that you have to be willing to do something about.
Yeah, I mean, like everyone's idea of success is going to be different. Nobody's one idea is going to be the exact same as someone else's.
Exactly.
And that doesn't even just apply to the government. Like it applies to schools too. If you don't like the work you do in school, or you don't think what you do in school is challenging you, then you should aspire to be a member of the Board of Education to change the rules of school, to change the criteria of school.
Exactly. I mean, as far as not just school, that's life. I mean, if you don't like the way that something is going or the way that things are, then the first step is having the courage to, acknowledge the problem and say, the first step of change and being able to,
I think the first step is putting yourself out there. Putting yourself in a place that starts your journey on a different path. That is the first step to creating your own road trip.
And we do not fight back against the dehumanizing values that are handed down as control icons.
And that's true. We don't. We just sit back and complain. We don't do anything. We would like to think that we do, but we don't. We don't do anything about society as we complain. Just sit on our couch, drink our beer, and complain about society. We do nothing.
There's several people that have intelligent ideas and intelligent ways of how things they think should be, but at the same time, that's all they are ideas. They're not
actions.
Yeah, they're not brought forth to be put into action,
Right. You can't do anything by sitting on your sofa or sitting in your bed and complaining. Complaints are a start because that means that you recognize something that you don't like. But you have to do something about that. You can't just sit back and expect somebody else to do that.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any point in complaining about something unless you're actually going to do something about it. Because that's not doing anything.
Right.
This is something, I don't really want to get off on this tear because it's a lecture in itself, but culture is not your friend. Culture is for other people's convenience and the convenience of various institutions.
Culture is for other people's convenience because they use it for their advantage. You have to see the opportunity behind something and take heed to that and follow up on that, because you have to know when to make decisions like that. You have to know when to put yourself outside of the group and to do something different.
Yeah, and culture is what you make of it. It's not just... if you do something about it, then it's going to change. But if you don't, then it's just going to stay the same. It's just going to stay just like it is.
Right.
And it depends on your idea of culture and how you see it.
Yep.
Churches, companies, tax collection schemes, what have you. It is not your friend. It insults you. It disempowers you. It uses and abuses you. None of us are well treated by culture. And
if culture insults you, it's because you have a different point of view than the topic that was brought up before you. And if that insults you, then not only should you bring up a different point of view, but you should pursue that different path.
If culture knocks you down and culture has a way of making you feel disempowered, then that's something that you're going to have to change yourself. Culture does not simply revolve around one person's idea of happiness. Culture was not created for
One individual.
culture was not created for one president or one senator, one government leader, or one simple middle class person in society. Culture was created for a broad perspective of people, and whether or not culture has changed and the ideas, yes, they have changed, but at the same time, you have to make of that what you want it to be. You can't simply say, I'm not happy with culture. Well, you have to do what you can do to make yourself happy in culture.
And I don't even think that you can say culture was created, because culture was not something that was created like America, like, hey, we don't like this, so we're going to go by ourselves and do this. Culture was something that was started based upon a belief. Mm-hmm. And not just a belief, but a group of the same beliefs. And with a group, you can go further than what you can with yourself. But you have to at least have that belief or that want yourself to find others who want that same thing with you.
I mean, it's like you were saying with Harriet Tubman. I mean, it wasn't just her, but it was a group of people that wanted to make a change, and they didn't like the way that things, the people were treated. And the group together made an action, and she was one of the few people that made a stand for herself.
And without her recognizing the fact, or without her owning up to the fact that she doesn't like what was going on, and without her doing anything, then she would have never found the people who were willing to help her along her journey.
And yet we glorify, the creative potential of the individual, the rights of the individual. We understand the felt presence of experience is what is most important, but the culture is a perversion. It fetishizes objects, creates consumer mania, it preaches endless forms of false happiness.
I don't think that there is any false happiness in culture. I think that you're happy with something because you find the good in that. Mm-hmm. And then when something doesn't go your way or doesn't go like you expected it to, then you point out the bad in the same situation that you found the good in.
I think happiness is based on your own perspective. I don't think it's anybody's right to say, false happiness, because we all have our own different ideas of happiness, our own different ideas of success, and how we're going about things to, do what we want to do.
Yeah.
Endless forms of false understanding in the form of swirly religions and silly cults. It invites people to diminish themselves and dehumanize themselves by behaving like machines.
If it invites you to diminish yourself, it also invites you to take the higher path and better yourself. Because if it's giving you the option to diminish yourself, then you also have the option to better yourself with the same information or the same thing that you were going to use to diminish yourself with.
Meme processors of memes passed down from Madison Avenue and Hollywood and what have you. How do we fight back? It's a question worth answering. The same question as how do we fight back? I think that by creating art, man was not put on this planet to toil in the mud or in the...
Let's say that culture isn't your friend. If you were going to fight back, I do not think that art is the path you should take. It could be a avenue, but I don't think it should be the only avenue or the major avenue, because art presents a lot of, it corrupts a lot of minds necessarily, because news articles show, even the headlines of a news article could show something, and with somebody having not necessarily the ignorance, but they could be, if somebody didn't read the full article and they just took the headline and interpreted it themselves, then that creates something completely different from what it was originally about.
I mean, like we were saying before, art is a perspective of your own opinion. Art is something that you take out of it what you think of it, I mean, like, when someone creates, like, a painting or whatever, they get their own idea out of that. When they present it out there to everybody, like you were saying with a headline, it may or may not benefit someone else, as far as, someone may take out of it something completely different than what it was originally made for.
Yeah, because I mean, all art is just someone's idea. It's not, I mean, it can be multiple ideas put into one thing, but it's always going to come back to just one person's idea. And the way one person sees something.
And with that, when it comes back to that one person's idea, everyone else jumps on the bandwagon to support that idea, not knowing to what extent that idea is going to, or not knowing the motives behind the idea. And I think that's the problem too, is people are quick to jump on the bandwagon when they find something good, and when they find something bad, they want to just hop right back off, because they don't dig deeper in the topic. They don't dig deeper in the idea.
God who put us on this planet to toil in the mud is no God I want to have any part of. It's some kind of Gnostic demon. It's some kind of cannibalistic demiurge that should be thoroughly renounced and rejected. By putting the art pedal to the metal, we really, I think, maximize our humanness and become much more necessary and incomprehensible.
I think you can maximize your potential without art, per se. You could be the fullest of your potential. You can do the most that you can by yourself. You don't really need others most of the time to do the most that you can. The most that you can is what you can do, not what others can help you do. You have to do it for yourself. You can't depend on others.